Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. I used to have to do a little bit of work to find global warming fake news, but no more. Now all I have to do is a global warming search on Google, which produces about 62 million results. ABC News: climate change could aggravate over half of known human pathogens, scientists say. But if we look at the actual data from Oxford University, the burden of disease around the world has plummeted over the last 30 years. And life expectancy has greatly increased to record highs. There's no evidence to support these speculations, so the top 3 stories are all fake news. The next 3 stories from Google News are: Senate passes Inflation Reduction Act. 5 new ways the Inflation Reduction Act bill will fight climate change. But this is all completely fake news. The Inflation Reduction Act will actually increase inflation, increase the deficit, and do nothing to affect the climate. The only things the Democrats are actually doing with this bill is stealing more money from taxpayers and further destroying the future of our country. Let's scroll down a little bit and see what the next fake news stories are. Global heating has caused shocking changes in forests across the Americas, studies find. Trees are advancing into the Arctic tundra and retreating from boreal forests further south, where stunting and die-offs are expected. But meanwhile, back in the real world, forested area in the United States has greatly increased over the last 30 years. And around the time Stonehenge was built, trees grew all the way to the edge of the Arctic Ocean in Canada. Now the tree line is 80 to 100 kilometers further south. The only thing that's shocking about this story is how bad the journalism is. Here's some outstanding fake news from the Washington Post. World's largest ice sheet risks melting, threatening spike in sea levels. The East Antarctic ice sheet could add up to 16 feet to sea levels in the long term if Paris Climate Accord targets aren't met. They've been talking about the West Antarctic ice sheet melting for a long time, but this is the first time I've heard anyone bring up the East Antarctic ice sheet. The reason being that the East Antarctic ice sheet almost never gets anywhere close to freezing. Temperatures there right now are about minus 60 degrees Celsius. And last winter was the coldest on record in Antarctica. This particular scam's been going on for a very long time. This was the front page of the Chicago Tribune 45 years ago. A huge portion of the Antarctic ice mass appears to be collapsing into the sea, a catastrophe that could raise the levels of the oceans by almost 20 feet. But they were talking about the West Antarctic ice sheet, and the National Science Foundation program manager said, "It has nothing to do with a warmer climate, just the dynamics of unstable ice. It never had anything to do with climate, and building windmills or driving electric cars is not going to change what happens in Antarctica." Now let's look at the next fake news from National Geographic. Thunderstorms are moving east with climate change. But the West has been getting slammed with thunderstorms this summer, and even California has been receiving them, which almost never happens. California experienced 66,000 lightning strikes from one storm. This is pretty lame fake news from National Geographic. Now let's look at the next story. Would there still have been climate change under socialism? The world's largest CO2 emitter is a communist country, China. Communist countries are notoriously bad at taking care of the environment. The air in Beijing was almost too dirty to hold the Olympics. And the Chernobyl disaster was the direct result of bad communist government. Governments don't control the climate, and this article is mindless speculation and fake news. Here's some good fake news from Fox News. On this date in history, August 8, 1975, global warming enters scientific political debate. But this debate has been going on for at least 120 years. In the Monthly Weather Review in 1901, Newt Angstrom explained what was wrong with Arrhenius' theory of global warming. He showed experimentally that increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will have very little impact on the greenhouse effect. Angstrom pointed out that Arrhenius made some fundamental errors in his calculations. You might recall that Arrhenius is Greta Thunberg's ancestor, and her father was named after him. This is what scientists were actually talking about in 1975. Science News, March 1st, 1975. The Ice Age cometh.
Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. At weather stations in the far north, temperatures have been dropping for 30 years. sea coasts long free of summer ice are now blocked year-round. According to some climatologists, within a lifetime, we might be living in the next ice age.
So yet more fake news from Fox News. But here's one story I like from CNN. Many Americans still don't think climate change is coming for them. CNN is upset that despite all their hard work, many Americans aren't falling for their scam. The press has a system in place with no checks and balances, and they don't allow anyone to tell the truth. And they hide their baseless speculations behind words like could and may. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on these frauds in the press and academia for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki and Upla on the web at realclimatescience.com.